Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go!
Here with the dean at the Edwards School of Business and the dean of our show, Keith Willoughby. You're in Phoenix at a conference. How many of these conferences do you do, bro?
Probably about 5 or 6 a year. Yeah, it's good to get out, visit with some of my academic colleagues, as well as some of my colleagues who are working in industry, sort of get the latest and greatest, some of the developments to network and to get some great ideas for how we could deploy some of these principles in our own business school in Saskatchewan.
Did you deploy any golf balls on a course?
Not on this trip, no. Sadly, it was only a couple of days, so I didn't have time to take the clubs with me, but it's like 90 degrees Fahrenheit today, so it would have been the perfect time to bring out the clubs.
Yeah, it's nice here for a change, so I'm not as envious, but I still am envious. Hey, by the way, School of Business, finances. How do you like the Canadian dollar right now?
Oh, boy. Yeah, I tell you, when you're down here on the per diem that we get it from the university, I tell you, it doesn't take a long time to really totally use up all of your per diem. It's, when you're paying basically a 40 to 45% premium on anything you get, taxi trip, going for a meal, going for the hotel, I tell you, it's quite a change from what it was even a couple of years ago.
How concerned are you about the tariffs that will be coming in, apparently?
I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is whatever and 10 is absolutely petrified, I put myself on a 5 or a 6. Mm-hmm. I know there's a lot of jockeying and there's a lot of barbs and comments going back and forth from either side. I think in Saskatchewan, we are somewhat insulated, given that we have 45% of our trade, which goes to countries not named the United States, but still they are our major dance partner. So it is concerning because we're all going to pay higher prices on both sides of the border, but hopefully cooler heads can prevail and we can be able to exist peacefully with this long-standing trade agreement that we've had between these two countries.
You don't have to agree with me, and I don't want to turn this political, but you're a man of the world. This is what I would do if I was the premier of Saskatchewan. I would do my own jockeying and posturing, and I would put pressure on Ottawa and say, you know what, maybe we will look at joining the United States as a fifth. If Canada doesn't, maybe we'll look at it, because it seemed to have worked out for Quebec quite well over the years. You know what I mean?
True, and we in Canada, we are a resource-rich nation, but Saskatchewan, we are a resource-rich province. So the United States needs Canada, but Canada needs Saskatchewan. So it does put us in maybe in a bit of a suitable position where we can exert some influence, because whether it's canola, if it's uranium, if it's potash, even oil. I know Alberta's the big player for oil, but lentils, peas, like the rest of the world relies upon the stuff that we do here in this province.
And let's be honest, Trump wants Alberta, Saskatchewan in the north. That's really what he wants. But cooler heads prevail, hopefully.
I hope so.
Canada won hockey, so all's good, and we can keep moving. Hey, it's funny that I talked to you in Phoenix, Arizona. Of course, that is the home of curling. You're our CFL simulations guy, but we got the BRIER coming up here, and Saskatchewan hasn't won a BRIER since 1980. Now, I'm going to start by saying this. I'm a traditionalist. Really, I am. I don't want to be like old man yelling at clouds. I'm okay with change, but I don't like TSN, the fact they've changed the song they've had for years. Did you watch the women's? I didn't watch much, but the bumpers to and from breaks? It wasn't that same song. It wasn't that same song. You know what I mean?
Oh, I didn't really. Wow, interesting. So yeah, that is a bit of a change, because they've had that for decades.
Yeah, they have. And I don't like this 4 Alberta, 4 Manitoba teams, 3 Alberta teams. What do we got? Who's the kid playing for Saskatchewan? And then we got McEwen, two representing Saskatchewan, right? Am I right about that?
Yeah, we do. There's 18 teams in the Scotties for the women and 18 teams for the BRIER. So basically every province, plus 2 for Ontario, plus all 3 territories, plus the reigning Canadian champion, plus you toss in then 3 wildcard entrants. It's really become a fluid situation. And, gone are the days when, you had your provincial team. And even right now, we have some very fluid residential requirements. We have Matt Dunstone, who curled for Saskatchewan a couple of years ago, now curls for Manitoba. Mike McEwen has curled for Manitoba. Now he's curling for Saskatchewan. Jacobs is curling for Alberta. So it's like to me, the residential situation has really been evaporated. Now it's like, almost like best on best.
I'm all for the Grand Slam of curling and curlers making extra money and all that stuff, but I think this needs to be separate. This needs to have its own, like, it's for Canada, it's for national pride, national supremacy. I think that is that goes away when you add all these different teams.
It does, because to me, you lose that provincial representation, even though you know going in that Nunavut and Yukon aren't really going to put up much of a battle. They're like in American college football, they're like, playing the Division II or Division III team.
Yeah.
But still, it's when you got wild card teams, you're like, who do you really cheer for? It's like you look more on the name on the back rather than the provincial emblem that they are carrying on their shirts.
So we haven't won a BRIER since 1980. It's sickening to keep saying it over and over again. So do some simulations for me. What are your numbers telling you here for this? So by the way, where the hell's this played? I don't even know where it's being played this week.
Kelowna.
Kelowna, okay, Kelowna. So,
I believe Kelowna or Kamloops. It's British Columbia. Yeah.
So what are we looking at here for Saskatchewan and just in general?
Well, the streak continues. Yeah, the drought goes on. There are people in their, again, mid-40s, middle-aged people who never in their lives have seen this province win the BRIER. So the Saskatchewan representative who won the Tankard, Ryland. Kleider, yes. Right now, about a 200-1 shot. And again, I hope he wins because I'm all for Saskatchewan. I'm all in being a provincial person here. But basically, a 200-1 shot of him winning the BRIER. We've never, and my colleague and I, this is the first year. So, Ballsy, you were the first one to hear about this stuff. This is the first year we've launched the curling simulation to basically do what are the chances of any team at the beginning of the BRIER winning the whole tournament.
Okay. And so what do we got Mike McEwen at? Because I think Mike McEwen's going to win the whole thing.
Yeah, 23%. Really strong. Has a very high CTRS, Canadian Team Ranking score. Done really well this year, sort of on the circuit. Comes back as a team who he played last year. Basically one of those wild card teams, so he's looking strong. Basically a 23% chance of him sipping from the cup of the BRIER this year.
So if he wins, is that a Saskatchewan win? Is that a true Saskatchewan win?
And that's a good point, because if you look on the list, it says Saskatchewan, McEwen. So I guess that's a good question. He'd be a wild card entrant, although he's not from Saskatchewan. But there again, with the fluid residential requirements, he has some Saskatchewan players on his team. That's a good question. Maybe if he wins.
So if Dunstone wins, is that a Saskatchewan win?
Who knows? Because Dunstone is the computer model's favorite. Okay. He's like 34% chance that Dunstone's going to win the BRIER. And so, who knows? It's maybe we in Saskatchewan, maybe now you just cheer for the team and the player, recognizing we have a variety of Saskatchewan players in different teams going into this BRIER.
So shouldn't this be called the Gushu and not the BRIER? He's the guy that usually dominates it. Where's he at in the model there? About
12%. Again, He's done really, really well. Obviously, he's the reigning Canadian champion, so he gets the automatic entry back into this year's BRIER. He has, I think, the ability where he's been there. He's won an Olympic gold medal. He's won world championships. He's won the BRIER multiple times. I think that gives him a cachet of experience that he can use to his advantage. One challenging thing that I've seen, again, I'm not a curling expert, so, I played it in high school, but I'm not obviously a competitive curler. If you look right now, to me, there are very few teams that going into the event really have a chance of winning. If you look at, because they have the reigning Canadian champion comes back, because we have the wild card teams, to me, it's that top four teams. It's going to be any of those teams, to me, in my mind, that are going to emerge victorious. I think the lesser teams, it's a long shot, and they're basically there to play during the initial pool play, and then they'll be discarded.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about football here for a second. So,
yes.
My kid's getting ready for the CFL Combine. And what's really interesting, and it just when you get closer to the process, I guess you pay attention more. So he's been working with maybe the greatest Husky of all time, Dan Farthing.
Dan Farthing, yes, sir.
Who's a cousin of mine. I proudly say that. Probably you wouldn't find maybe I won't say the best because I don't know every strength and conditioning coach in the CFL, but you wouldn't find a better one. You certainly wouldn't find a more intelligent one than Dan Farthing. But anyway.
Farthing's incredible. Somebody in his 50s, he looks like he could play in the CFL right now.
And dude was up on his roof in South Regina shoveling off the roof. and neighbors were fearing for his life because he's up there shoveling the snow off, but he's like 55 years old or something like that. So anyway, in my son's workouts with Farthing and the discussion with Farthing, this is very interesting. The NFL, when they do their 40-yard sprints, they do hand start, laser finish. Okay? Hand start, laser finish, which skews, you're a numbers guy, skews to faster times. So that's why you see bigger men running faster times, or a lot of 4.3s or 4.2s with that, is it Chandler Worthy from the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Xavier Worthy.
Xavier Worthy, sorry, not Chandler Worthy, Xavier Worthy. Okay. So whereas in the CFL, it's double lasered at the start and at the end. So the numbers skew a little slower. Same thing with bench press. In bench press, you both got to lock out NFL, CFL, but in the NFL, they let you bounce it off your chest, where in the CFL, they don't count bouncing off the chest. Now, you will say, and as an educator, a highly educated educator, you're a stickler for the rules, so you're probably saying that is the better way to do it. Like, at least you're getting a true indication. But having said that, Keith, we are trying to sell the product. So if it's fair to everybody else, then I'm going with the NFL's model. Let's make the guys seem a little faster than they are, a little stronger than they are, then they're more mythical, and then we're paying attention. Because if you have a Joe Blow football fan and he sees Xavier Worthy run a 4.3, but actually he's running a 4.4, it just looks faster. So why don't we do that in Canada? Let's make our guys seem like they're still great athletes, but let's make them seem like they're on par with the American athletes, because actually they probably are in a lot of cases.
Ballsy, the years that I've known you, there's things that you've said that I totally disagree with.
Yeah.
There's things that you've said that I'm sort of on the fence. This is one, Ballsy, that I would raise the flag with you on this one. To me, I'm firmly in your camp. To me, perception is reality. And if you have the perception of Xavier Worthy being a 4.2 athlete in the 40, that gets eyeballs, it gets attention, it draws interest, because people want to see the fast player. They want to see the strong player. So let's do something to, again, to me, it's not being unethical. It's following what's done in the NFL, and it's giving a way for us to advertise the speed and strength of our athletes playing the Canadian game, because anything you can do to showcase them in a better light will create bums in seats, eyeballs on the television, and interest in the league.
1,000,000%. Like, you're absolutely right. My grandpa said that. Perception's everything, and facts are negotiable. Lastly, have you found a commissioner down there in the CFL? I can't believe, are we going to have a lame duck commissioner in front of a cheesy TV set do our draft in April? Or will we have a commissioner? Like, either nobody wants the job, or this is the best ownership group that have kept the secret. Because we talked about this before, but I'm still not hearing any names.
No, in my mind, if I were on the recruitment committee, like, to me, you've got to fix this. Like, this has gone on now. The season ended 3 months ago. So we've gone now over 90 days without a commissioner. The preseason starts in 3 months from now. And to me, it's getting glaring with this omission. Find Mike Pinball Clemens' phone number, contact him, let him be commissioner. And to me, that's somebody I would love to see. Clemens, Andy Fantuz, give me somebody like that. Even Jock Climie. I know Climie is maybe in his late 50s now.
Henry Burris.
Get somebody, because the longer this is taking, perception becoming a reality, people are wondering what's going on. Again, is nobody interested? Is there something wrong with the league? And that doesn't bode well when you're trying to sell seats and sell interest in a league that throughout Canada it isn't on page one of every sports page across this nation.
No, but I do like where they're going with a couple of things. We're getting more Canadian quarterbacks in our league. Hopefully the Elks, they got to win games, so Trey Ford's going to have to earn it. But hopefully they stick with him this time and let him try to develop a little bit here with a nice backup in Cody Fajardo, Nathan Rourke, of course. But we're getting Canadian coaches. Like, you got Mark Killam, you've got Bobby Dice, you've got Mike O'Shea, Rick Campbell, who's been a head coach. Like, more Canadian Corey Mace, more Canadians as head coach. So I think they're doing something right in that aspect for sure.
They are. I think when you can get that leadership at the top, I think that will bode well for ensuring that that Canadian content remains firm. To me, you're seeing when I follow U Sports football quite a bit, they're seeing an exceptional level of football across the nation, and as well, a number of Canadians who are doing very well playing NCAA football. It's gone are the days when your Canadian talent was sort of your afterthought. Now it's becoming a primary consideration for the team.
Okay, and lastly, I didn't want to bring it up, but I did want to bring it up, and you kind of opened the door, so I'm going to walk through it. You are at the rival U of S, but obviously you're a Saskatchewan football fan. What we saw here in Regina with Tarek Polius and Michael Jordan, the two Ram players caught up on those drug charges, theft, and the crime ring and all that type of stuff. Innocent until proven guilty, but it certainly does not look good. And I just listen. The Rams are already recruiting with one arm behind their back, admittedly, because they're an undergraduate school in the middle of the prairie. So it's hard to compete with the U of S's, the UBCs. It really is. Not making excuses, and I don't hold Mark McConkey to task over this, but it's hard for me to believe you didn't know. You didn't do your due diligence on these guys, or somebody in the locker room didn't know this kind of stuff was going on with these guys. It's a small town. It just looks bad. I leave every stone, overturn every stone to find as many Saskatchewan kids as you can, because we've got great Saskatchewan players. Saskatchewan, Regina, U of S, U of R, you should be 99.9% Saskatchewan players if you can be that way.
I agree. And I think of, again, I don't know the specifics of what would happen in the allegations with Regina. It's tough because you said it's a tough look for a team, for the university, and for the community. But just the bigger issue here in terms of Saskatchewan talent, you look at this province, and to me, I would take players who play six-side football. They are exceptional athletes in small town Saskatchewan. To me, players who play 9-a-side and even the ones who play 12-player, there's a cachet of some great talent. We've seen it with the Riders, where there's a lot of Saskatchewan talent that weaves its way through this team, and even other Saskatchewan players that have gone to play elsewhere that make a name for themselves. So I'm with you, Ballsy, in terms of the ability to demonstrate your Saskatchewan allegiance by recruiting internally.
I'm a proud former Regina Ram, so in no way am I'm not cutting them down, but I just if you got a guy who arguably, let's use Polius for an example. If you got a guy that is the best defensive lineman in Can West, he wrecked that Laval game, okay? He was going to be a draft pick in the CFL. If you've got a guy like that and you can bring him to Regina, don't you have to ask yourself 2 or 3 times, why is he coming to Regina? Why can't he find a school out east? He's into the Toronto area. Look how many universities are there in Southern Ontario. Isn't it kind of a buyer beware?
But I do know, from what I have seen, Regina's done really well for recruiting some exceptional athletes who've gone on to play even in the NFL.
Yes,
some D linemen. So maybe there's a bit of a legacy, some reputation in terms of going to Regina if you want to be a good lineman, because they've recruited and trained some very successful NFL talent.
Obviously, though, it's a big blow to the Rams. I didn't think Polius, regardless this was going to come back. He was going to probably stick in the CFL. But Jordan would have been in their secondary. And I think the Rams and Huskies, at least as I sit right here talking to you, I think they're 1-2 on the paper in terms of the Can West going into this season.
Be nice to be able to continue to have that Saskatchewan domination of Canada West. You look, last year's a great example where Manitoba and UBC were the top 2 teams. And lo and behold, what happens? Saskatchewan has the miracle comeback in Vancouver, and then Regina upsets Manitoba for Manitoba's only loss of the season. Sorry, I think they had one loss in the regular season, but then they lost when they were in first place. And then, then Regina, full credit to them, they stepped up and beat Huskies in Griffiths in the Hardy Cup. So it'd be nice to see a continuation of some Saskatchewan success in 2025 in Canada West.
Well, you have a good trip home, and hurry hard.
Hurry hard. Exactly.
Talk to you later, buddy. All right, Macho Man, not Randy Savage, but Mr. Harris joining me here on the Where Are They Now segment. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. And yourself?
Good. So I was hopefully the research is right. Like, so Macho, your dad named you that?
Yeah, my dad named me that when I was like maybe 1 or 2 years old. He said I was like a advanced kid that was pretty smart, and I was just on a bad motive back in the days. So he just wanted to name me something masculine,
Mm-hmm.
and he came up with the name Macho, and it stuck with me ever since.
So does your wife Kylie call you Macho or call you Victor?
No, she calls me Macho. Well,
Yeah,
she calls me Victor when she's mad at me though.
but you're, and I'm assuming like your dad and your mom has since passed, right? But
Yeah.
they probably called you Victor when they were mad at you, right? Victor.
Yep. Get your butt down
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing you ever got in trouble for when you were a kid?
Oh man, when I was a kid, I would say, yeah. See, Ballsy, I'm from New York City, so it was like I used to always try to hang with my older sisters and stuff like that, and my mother used to always try to tell us that get in, make sure you get in the house in a certain time and stuff like that, and I used to think I was just as old as my sisters and stuff like that, so I used to hang out with them. But I mean, just doing little kid bad things. I used to ride my tricycle over any company that we had over. I used to ride it over their feet, and
Oh,
yeah, I used to just do like just little bad stuff for attention. But other than that, like,
yeah.
nothing really too crazy.
Hey, life's funny, man. Did you ever think one day you'd be married to an attractive blonde lady and live in some place called Saskatchewan?
I never imagined that at all. I never imagined that at all. But God work in mysterious ways, and I can't complain at all, man. It's a blessing to be in this position and here in Saskatchewan with my family, my beautiful wife, beautiful kids. I can't complain at all.
How old are the kids?
I got an oldest daughter that she's 6 years old, and I have a younger daughter, she's 3 years old.
And their names?
Camila is the 6 year old, and Layla is the 3 year old. We call the oldest one Mickey.
Okay, why do you call her Mickey?
Well, when we first had the ultrasound, we seen the ultrasound, and she had that little button nose, and
Yeah.
she just looked like little Mickey Mouse. So as soon as we seen the picture, I was like, oh, Mickey, her name is Mickey for sure. Like, we're just gonna call her Mickey, and that's what it is. And like, coming from I'm Black and Puerto Rican, and my family, my Hispanic side, my Puerto Rican side, we known for having like nicknames and stuff like that. So we gave her the nickname Mickey, and yeah, it's kind of like the same thing as Macho. It's
Yeah.
just it sticks with her.
So you're Macho, she's Mickey, the younger daughter. Do you have a name there, nickname?
Yeah, her name is Layla, but we call her Lele.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so and like she's like a feisty one too, so she's ready to lay anything down. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we call her Lele.
And your wife, does she have a nickname?
No, we just call her Kai. Kai.
She runs the place, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Her parents and her brother call her Q.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I call her Kai.
Awesome, man. Hey, do you have any regrets about playing football? Like, I'm not talking about playing football, but any regrets about how your career went or how things went?
Uh, I would have to say probably it will be. I don't have no regrets. I mean, it was a dream come true. Ever since I was a kid, since I was maybe 10 years old, when I picked up the game, I always wanted to become an NFL football player. I wanted to chase that dream. And I wrote it down, and I always said that when I grow up, I'm becoming an NFL football player, and I accomplished those dreams under God's will. But I mean, the only regret I would probably say is, again, not no regret. We live and learn. But during the process, when I was in the NFL, it was one of the things where, you know, as a kid, you feel like you have arrived, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that could get clouded because you have all this money, and you just living the life and enjoying the things and stuff like that. The only thing if I could rewind back, I would eliminate all of the extra stuff, far as enjoying my wealth and stuff like that, and rather than and just putting that time and substituting with just crazy grind, hard work, and nutrition, right? Eating healthy. That was one of the things that when I got to Canada, I picked it up, like far as eating healthy and clean and taking care of my body, because the body is your job. You got to take care of the body. You got to make sure you healthy and you could perform at a maximum level. So that was one of the things that when I got to Canada, I just changed a lot of ways, it led me to a successful career here in Canada.
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting about you, and I knew this, but my son's been doing a little research on you, and we'll talk about that in a second because it's kind of why I've hooked up with you. But you were the top football player coming out as a high schooler, but you were a running back, and then you go to corner at the D1 level, and then you end up playing safety in the NFL. Like you definitely showed what kind of athlete you were, but how do you go from a running back to a defensive back at the highest level of college?
Yeah, that was the thing, right? I was coming out of high school, like you said, I was one of the top athletes. Well, I was number 2 rated in the country, athlete in the country. And it was just one of those things where a lot of schools, at that time there was elite cornerbacks in the collegiate level that was they had that transition from running back to cornerback, and they were extremely successful. Guys like Charles Woodson, D'Angelo Hall, those guys used to play running back in high school. And once they saw that success, they when they saw me, I guess they felt like, okay, this guy could be a good corner. He got great hips. He could change directions quickly. He's quick. He's fast. So I would say half of the schools, I had over like 60 offers to go anywhere in the country. And like, I would say, about right around half of the schools wanted me to play cornerback, and the other half wanted me to play running back. So it was just a thing where, like I said, it was just coaches felt like, if he has the hips, he could, flip his hips, change directions, he can make that transition easily. And that's what it was. And I felt like coming out of high school, I was 6 foot 185. And at that time, cornerbacks was only like, the average corner was like not 5'9.5",
Mm-hmm.
So I was considered a big corner at that time. So, I was just thinking about longevity and like far as my career. So I made the decision. It was like, you know what, playing cornerback is probably not a bad idea if I want to continue to, play ball and, have a long career playing football, so.
Yeah. I played on the offensive side of the ball, and I kind of taught my kid that way. So I never really had the appreciation for defense till he started playing. And he said, "Dad, it's way like I was a receiver, Dad, but it's way tougher to be a defensive back. You do everything opposite. You don't know where the guy's going." So, and you're nodding your head.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so take me now from the NFL where you got the Eagles frame picture over your shoulder there.
Yeah.
And by the way, first what do you think of them winning the Super Bowl? Were you rooting for them?
Oh man. Oh, absolutely. They gave me my first opportunity to get a crack at the NFL. They helped make my dreams come true. And I'm a forever Eagles fan. And man, having that victory over the Chiefs, oh man, it was. Oh, words can't explain. I'm still celebrating.
Yeah, they smashed them. I won a lot of money in that game. Okay, so you come to the Canadian Football League, and how much of an eye-opener is that for you? Because you're an athletic guy, but now you got to cover guys who get a running start. And in the NFL, they get down in the score zone. They're at the 10-yard line. Well, you got a small end zone, and you've got that protection of the end line. Not in the CFL, man. It's a tarmac out there. What's that like? What was it like for you coming to the CFL?
Man, yeah, to be honest with you, I mean, football is football, right? And at the end of the day, it's football is football. But the huge adjustment would be, adjusting to that waggle. That waggle was, that's some real stuff there. Having a guy running at you from anywhere from 50 to 90% speed, coming at you full speed, and you got to make sure that your technique is sound, right? Because you just can't go out there and just all of a sudden just not have no technique and think you're going to be successful, right? So the transition, I mean, I felt like at the time, I did my study and I try to practice with guys back at home before I went into Saskatchewan's camp. They had I went it's like a tryout camp that they had in Florida.
Mhm.
We was out there in I believe it was yeah, I can't remember where it was at. It was
Probably January before
yeah,
free
yeah.
agency. Yeah.
Yeah, so we was down there in Florida, and it was just one of those things where, like I said, it was an eye opener just to see those guys like Weston Dressler, Chris Getzlaff, uh, Bags. Those guys were elite at that time, and they came down there to camp. Those were veterans. They came down there to camp, and it was a great experience because they taught me the speed, the tempo, and how things were going to be in the CFL. And, I performed pretty well. Like,
Yeah.
again, technique is number one when it comes to things like that. When you're stepping out of your comfort, you got to trust on your technique. Athleticism will get you halfway there, but technique would set the tone, and then you let your athleticism play a part.
Do you think that playing the offensive side of the ball, like if you're a guy going offense to defense, do you think that helps you transition to defense because you kind of have an offensive mindset to start, so you kind of know how an offensive guy thinks?
Absolutely, absolutely. Especially when you're running routes, right? Like your boy, he said it's kind of tougher, right? Because at the end of the day, we reacting as defensive players, right? We reacting on whatever the offense gives us and stuff like that. So, it's it helps because at the simple fact that you played offense, you understand how they think, you understand where certain routes are supposed to be. Your short routes, three-step, those type of things. It kind of translate, and it helps you out. It helps you out in the long run to understand once you start studying that position and you start watching film, and you're like, okay, I know what he's thinking right there, and especially when they're coming off the route, and they try to give you a little stem inside. Oh, I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to run an inside route, things like that. So that you definitely have an upper hand. You definitely have an upper hand to a guy that's just starting off at defense, just flat out defense. And, the mental part is definitely helps you out from offense to defense.
Macho Harris, when did you know Saskatchewan? Like, when did you know? Was it meeting your wife, or when did you know this is my kind of place? Like, I'm locked in here. I like Saskatchewan.
Yeah, I came in 2012, and I met my wife in 2012. And it was one of the things, I want to say it was early. It was extremely early. I want to say it was probably, like week 8 or something like that. I was just, she was my friend at the time. We were just getting to know each other or whatnot and stuff like that. And it was just a thing where it was like the quality of life here was just so pure and so like so comfortable and so peaceful, especially coming from where I came from. It was like, where I'm from is, a lot of times guys riding around with, pistols and all this crazy stuff like that. So you got your alert and your awareness has to be up at all times, but when I got here, it was kind of like, okay, I could drop my guard down, and then once I realized that people go to sleep, some people go to sleep with their doors unlocked, I was like, oh man, this is okay, so like, and again, I was just thinking about my future family, like where can I raise my family and be peaceful and like focus on the quality of things in life rather than just the stupidity or the negativity and stuff like that. So, I think it was, like I said, it was early on in 2012, well, during the season. And it was just like, you know what? I think I'm gonna stay here. And I told her that around that time. And she was like, so what you gonna do during the off season? I was like, shoot, I don't know. And at the time, Chris McKenzie, you familiar with Chris McKenzie?
Yeah, for sure.
So he had a good plug in with the pipeline at the time. So, it was one thing like during the off season, I linked up with him and he put me onto the pipeline, and it was just like, okay, cool. Like, I could make money. I could live out here. I can make a living. I could just, I want to stay out here. This is where I feel at peace at. So, from there, here I am.
I've interviewed Warren Moon before, and he said the one thing he loved about the CFL is he was just the quarterback. He wasn't a black quarterback. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I'm white. You see that. So I haven't experienced any type of racism. So take this with a grain of salt. But I don't like I think I want to be past that. Maybe I'm naive to think that, but like they were saying, Jalen Hurts is the fourth black quarterback to win a quarterback or win a Super Bowl. Who gives who gives a shit? He's just
Right.
a quarterback. That's how I want to view it. But am I being kind of naive when I say that?
And see, no, you're not. It's just here, the culture up here is a little different. I mean, racism is everywhere in the world, right?
Yeah.
And but up here in Canada, it's like, it's it's a lot of blue collar people that just work hard for their family. They family oriented. They believe in the good things in life and the quality of things in life, and pushing the bar to be better, right?
Yeah.
See, in the states, no knock at all, but the states, a lot of people live in the past, and they live in the past, and they live on the things that, oh yeah, my ancestors went through this, and I'm not taking that away. My ancestors went through that, but at the end of the day, I'm a huge believer in God, and at the end of the day, it's like, God wouldn't want you to have that hatred in your heart, you right, or hold any grudges for people. He wants us to love all people, all kinds of people, and we should be one. Like I tell my wife, I don't see no color. You treat me with class, you treat me with respect, and I'll give you the same. Once you cross that line, then it's a different ball game. But until then, I don't see no color. It is what it is. So
Yeah. So you seem like a real Christian guy, God fearing man. Kyrie Bear, Dirty Bird from the Alouettes. I'm friends with him. He does a post game show with me. He's the same kind of guy. How do you dudes? And I played football, but I wasn't like I wasn't a killer. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have a switch where I'm going to knock somebody's head off. My son's kind of the same way. I'm not that way. I don't know. But how do you guys go from just want to provide for my family, got 2 good kids, going to take my daughter to hockey practice, and then you go on the field and you want to knock somebody's block off? How do you do that, man?
Man, you just gotta. It's the game of football, right? The game of football. Once we all understand that the game of football is a violent game, right? I hate to say it, but it is what it is. It's kill or be killed. Like I told your son today, like that's just that type of game. You got to have that mentality, because if you go over there, you go in there being passive and thinking that everything is peaches and cream, you're going to get your block knocked off, So at the end of the day, you got to protect yourself. You got to protect yourself, and you got to execute what's the plays. And that's the beauty about football, right? The beauty of football is you can let that aggression out, right? You could be aggressive out on the football field. You could lay a big hit, and you won't get press charges or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, like, that's the beauty of football, man. It's a beautiful game. And I think, you got to play the game. You definitely got to play the game up to its demand, right? You got to raise that level, whatever it is, whatever sport it is, you got to just raise the bar and play at that level, because I mean, that's what it demands.
Yeah. So I love the Kyrie Bears, the Macho Harrises, the Tyron Brackenridges, the Junior Seaus, the Rodney Harrisons, because they didn't care about their body. So why should they care about yours in some way, right? Like
right.
But how do you feel about the games going now? Like I told my son this, I asked him 3-4 times over his career, are you sure you want to be on defense? Because man, it sucks to be on defense the way they want all these points scored, and you can't touch a guy and you can't look at a guy. Like, you know how many fines you get the way you played now?
Definitely. They definitely it's definitely an offensive game nowadays. I mean, and some of them is good for safety reasons and stuff like that. You want to protect the players. At the end of the day, we all trying to make a living, and we all trying to provide for our families and stuff like that. So I get that, but it's definitely an offensive game. They trying to make it. I mean, they just making it so they can, I guess, add more fans, because, if you light it up, you put 40, 50 points a game, that's going to bring the crowd.
Yeah, but come on, man. A 20-17, 23-21 game is pretty enjoyable. Actually.
Oh, I love that. That's a defensive game, and I truly love games like that. Like I tell people all the time, man, look, if it's a 3-0 game, people be like, oh no, that game was boring. No, I love that. That was a defensive battle. You got to understand. Look at the defensive side. Look how they was executing. Look how they was shutting down the offense. Because again, this is an offensive game nowadays. The refs and the way it's set up now is just gonna favor the offense nowadays, and especially at CFL, where they got these if it's a penalty, if it's a questionable play on the pass interference, you could review it now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's, I mean, no knock at all. Like, I mean, I get it. You want more fans to come to the games and stuff like that, enjoy the games because, offense lights it up. They bring excitement, right? But at the end of the day, the game of football is a gritty game. So defense is all day.
I've always liked my American players like yourself. The two best players that ever played for the Riders were Reed and Lancaster. They were American. They got statues out front of the stadium. Okay, so this isn't against American players, but you grew up wanting to be an NFL guy. Okay, you got the jersey or that framed picture over your shoulder. Okay, that's what you wanted to be. You didn't grow up wanting to be a CFL guy. My son grew up wanting to be a CFL player first, believe it or not. Like this has always been a dream of his. That's why I think it's very important for the ratio. How did you feel about the ratio when you first came here? And how do you feel about the ratio now and kind of, protecting Canadian jobs so that a guy like Ethan or whoever wants to grow up to be the next Getzlaff or whoever lives down, Macho Harris, who stayed in the community and lives down the street from him?
Right. I mean, I respect it. I respect the ratio, because at the end of the day, it's a Canadian football league, right? And, the more Canadians play the game, I feel like the better it is. I mean, don't get me wrong. The CFL bring Americans to make the game step up a whole nother level. But nowadays, you having Canadians raising the bar now too, right? So it's like, the more Canadians in the CFL, I feel like it's better because it is a Canadian league, right? So,
and you're a guy that's helping that, Macho. Tell us now. We know you're in Regina. We know you work for Everaz. We talked about your family, but what are you doing on the side because you're helping to build the stars of tomorrow today? I said, who can I get? And I asked Paul Waldo because he's a friend of mine. He goes, I can't. We got some family stuff, but you got to get a hold of Macho. So I'm like, okay, I didn't know Macho still did this stuff. So tell us what you're doing, Macho.
So we have a program. We have a program, M3 Performance. Chris McKenzie. We build this thing from the ground, and it's a program. It has two parts. It's pretty much all in a nutshell. It's a program where we created, and we feel like we want to bridge the gap between the kids here and the kids down south, right? Mm-hmm. And we realized that over the years we've been here and we've been watching football here. We've been watching basketball, hockey, whatever it is. We noticed that there's tons of athletes out here. Like it's crazy. Like it's not a thing where these kids are less athletic. No, it's not that. We always tell it like this. Like, is the development of those athletes, right? Mm. We no knock to no trainers at all, across Canada or whatever, no knock at all. But when you have formal professional football players, NFL football players, CFL players, that play at a high level, on the collegiate level and the professional level, we pretty much know the ins and outs when it comes to, training kids and trying to get them to that point. Mm. So we created two programs. One program is an all sport plyometrics, agility and explosive program, where this program, whatever sport you play, we just trying to create these players to become better athletes. 100%. Like we teach them how to get used to their body, how to foot speed, foot placement, foot striking, body control. We teach them all of that so they can understand, so they can know their body, so they can know where to move and how to plant and go, right? Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, they're getting stronger, they're getting quicker, they're getting faster. And then we have a football program where we develop young athletes, young football players. This is our expertise. This is where we thrive at, becoming, being football players in the past or whatever, former football players. This is where we thrive at. We teach them the game of football. We teach them how to play the game, where to look at, how to study, how to study on their opponent, and how to, sharpen their tools and techniques and fundamentals. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And right now we started, well, a few months ago, like about 6 months ago, we started our 7-on-7, our 7-on-7 league. 7-on-7 team. We have a 7-on-7 team where we just came from Phoenix, Arizona, at the red zone tournament. We played out there. We challenged. We took these kids. We took the kids down there. Like again, we trying to bridge this gap, right?
Yeah.
We trying to let these kids know that look, you guys could play with them too. Like there's no, there's no shame in that. You guys can play too. Over the years, you just see that, guys, they feel like as they get older, get into the high school level, it's kind of a question mark. Like, could I play down south? Like, no, we here to let you know that you can play down south, and we here to move you in that direction so you can be successful. So.
Okay, before I get the details on where they can get a hold of you on that, in this whole process that my son's going through, I get to look at it not from just a media guy, but a father too. And what I find interesting is that so the NFL Combine you did, okay, they've got a laser start and a hand start and a laser finish for the 40, okay,
yep.
which. And for bench press, they let you bounce it off your chest, where in the CFL, it's more controlled, okay? So right. It just ties into what you said. Perception is everything and facts are negotiable. That's what my grandpa told me in 1985, and it has rung true to this day, okay? So It's perceived that these, like you watch Xavier Worthy, I'm not saying he's not fast, but he runs a 4.21 because it's a hand time laser finish. The CFL is double lasered, so it looks slower. The guys look a lot slower, and therefore perception is they're not as good. Now, right. I get it. There's very elite athletes in the States. That's not what I'm saying. But why doesn't the CFL go to that? Because average Joe Blow isn't going to know, and then he's going to look at it and he's going to see, oh, that kid from Lake Ridge ran a 4.3. Holy shit, he's pretty good. And now all of a sudden, I got to go buy a ticket to go watch a Rough Rider game because you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess, at the end of the day, like I said, football's football, but I think, CFL, NFL, especially CFL, if I'm not mistaken, I think the CFL was established way longer than the NFL. It's the
oldest league. It's the oldest. Yeah.
So sure. I think at the end of the day, I think, there's two separate entities, and I think they just at the end of the day, I think they want to keep it. This is a CFL. We do things a little bit different.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Here's my thing. We fight perception of, look at all, here's what I hear. Well, they're Bush League. If they were any good, they'd be in the NFL. Well, you played in both. The CFL is not Bush League. I just want to make it so what you're saying. We do have good kids. We got guys training our kids. Our kids are who cares if it's fair for everybody? Let's make it perceived that they're really, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. I'm with you 100% because I tell you right now, the CFL is not no slouch. I mean, Chad Ochocinco, he came up here. Yeah. He came up here and he was on a podcast and he was interviewed and asked that question. He was like, "Man, look, the CFL is no joke. They got some dogs down there up there too." And that's true. That's true. And then, I mean, granted, like some kids, they don't make it to the NFL for numerous reasons, but they come up here and they just as good. Or even the kids up here, the point blank period. These kids are just good. They just don't get that look down south, right?
Were you bitter at all? Like you started you're running back. You went to corner, you moved to safety in the NFL, you won a job, and then you ended up, because of numbers and stuff, you ended up going back to corner, but late in camp, and then you got cut, and then you played with the Redskins a little bit, and it just never, I think you hurt your hip or something like that.
Yeah, tore my hip, yep.
Tore your hip, and then was there ever a point where you're like bitter or like, why am I in the CFL or this sucks or?
No, not at all. Especially like, that transition from corner to safety was a huge jump for me. It was a little bit steeper than, adjusting to the waggle because, your eyes, your study, everything changes when it comes to playing corner to safety. Right.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things that I didn't get a chance to really thrive at that position. And I mean, at the end of the day, when I got to the Redskins, I started at the Redskins, but unfortunately I blew my hip out, right? But when I got to the CFL, it was one of the things that I was so grateful that I had a chance to continue to pursue my dream, play football, right? So I never looked at it as a knock or like I'm taking a step back. No, because at first I had the vision where I was going to come up here, play hard a couple years, and then go back down south. If there was an opportunity, I was gonna go back down south. But after, like I said, after like week 8, I closed all those doors. I was like, I'm staying up here. Like I'm gonna make a career up here. I'm gonna enjoy life up here. I love the CFL. I love the people. I love Canada. I love Saskatchewan. I love Regina. And I just made it a home.
Yeah, it was. Let's be honest, it was Kylie's fault. She hooked you in. Hey, hey, 2 more quick questions for you. When you look at what's going on here now, we just had kids go through the regional combine. Now they're going to the combine. You have been working out with my son, who, by the way, said, "Dad, that dude could still play." Do you think you could line up and play a couple of series?
Yeah, I tell a few people, they see us train these kids and stuff like that, and sometimes I got to move around and demonstrate and show them, the proper way of moving.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they say, "Oh man, you still could play. You still could play." I tell them this. I say, "Look, I could play, but I only got 10 plays for you."
Did you ever officially retire? Did you ever?
Yep.
You
did.
Eh?
Yep. As a rider, a rough rider. Yep.
Waldo never did. He still hasn't filed his papers. I'm like, when are you going to retire, man? You're selling real estate now. Come on, man. I'm going to go. Anyway, do you have any advice for these young athletes that are either coming up through high school or the guys that are like my kid trying to maybe take that next step?
I would say, man, at the end of the day, if you put in the hard work, you did what you have to do at school. Of course, schoolwork is number one. These scouts, these college recruits and stuff like that, they gonna come and check your whole background, right? They wanna see how you live. They want to see how you act. They want to hear words from the streets to see who you truly are. And another thing is social media, right? You want to be careful with social media. You want to be careful with what you post and how you project yourself on social media. You want to use that platform to elevate your stock, right? You want to use it for posting highlights or posting good things. You don't want to post things that nowadays some of the kids that's not into sports or something like that they're doing, whatever they're doing. You don't want to be in that crowd, associated with that crowd, because like I said, scouts and recruiters, they are looking at everything, right?
Yeah.
And another thing will be, it's all mental, right? It's all mental. Like, believe that you can make it. Believe that you can make it to the NFL. Believe that you could play with those Americans. Believe that you could play at a high level, because at the end of the day, I feel like is one of the things, the mentality of it, is a huge factor up here, and it's like they say, man, you could put your mind to it. You could be whatever you want to be. As cliche as sound, it's so true. It is so true. And a lot of kids, they eliminate themselves because of the mental part of the game, the mentality. Their mentality is not there, whether they're fearing something or they uncertain about something. No, like, believe in yourself. Our program is called M3. We strong on the 3 M's: mentality, mastery, and mission. You want to have that mentality to know that you can accomplish anything. Have the mentality, that strong mentality to overcome adversity. You want to master. The next one is mastery, right? You want to master your craft no matter what. If you tie your shoes, a lot of people, I ask the kids, can you tie your shoes with your eyes closed? And they say, yeah, I could do that. I was like, that's mastery. You want to perfect your technique to mastery, right? And then mission. If you have a mission to become a NFL, CFL, a doctor, or a lawyer, whatever it is, if you have that dream, accomplish that mission. Don't let nothing hold you back, and go get it.
So where do they get a hold of you if they want to get involved with you and Chris McKenzie?
So we have our website. Our website is www.m3performancesask.com. You can email us at m3performancesask @gmail.com. And pretty much we have our social media, M3 Performance. You can see it there on Facebook and Instagram. Those are ways that you can reach out to us. I mean, like I said, we elevating kids and getting them there, man. And the testimonies that we hear from parents from, we only been a year in, and the testimonies that we hear from the parents from their kids playing last year to this year in any sports, man, it's just been so great to hear, man. And that's the reason why we do this.
All right. So, and lastly, I thought the M3 was for your 3 interceptions against the Montreal Alouettes in 2014. That's your greatest game as a Rough Rider individual. What do you remember about that day? That ball was just finding you all over, and you had tackles, and you were all over the field.
Man, I tell you, man, like, I tell kids when they ask about that because some of the parents tell them, or they might have been young, you did remember or whatever. But I tell them, man, when you're in that zone, man, it's words can't explain when you're in that zone. Like when you're in that zone, it's like nothing can stop you. Nothing can stop you. It seems like everything that you do is just right. And that's when you're in the zone, when you're not even thinking. You just playing ball. You just trusting your instincts. You just making it happen. And I'm telling you, the only way you could get to that point is if you work hard. You master your technique, your craft, and you go out there and execute what you're supposed to do.
So, and it's funny, we started this interview talking about God works in mysterious ways, and you're in Saskatchewan with a beautiful family. My son used to go to all the games because I got him tickets. I was the sideline reporter for 18 of my 20 years covering the game.
Yep.
And so he remembers. He goes, Dad, I remember that game because he would have been about 11 years old, and he said, or no, he's 13 years old, and he said, and now the guy's training me. So it's funny how your life goes full circle, right?
Yeah. We talked about that too, man. He said he remembered and everything, and then I told him, man, like working with him, man, I ain't gonna lie, Ballsy, man, like he's an extraordinary athlete. Like he's well put together. He's a great athlete. He has a great mindset about him. And I told him, man, I told him today, man, he just gave me goosebumps because it was one of those things like you said, life goes in a circle, right? It comes back all the way around. And, to be out there in that platform in the gridiron making plays out there at a professional level, then all of a sudden coming back and giving back to the kids. And then the kids, they come back and give us some of this information like, oh, I remember you, man. That just warms the heart, man. Like I said, this is why we do it, because we have a passion with it. We have a purpose. This is our purpose, to get our kids in this community up to speed and make sure they accomplish with their dreams.
Well, I trust him. He is a good judge of character. When I used to coach him in football, I got the the player list, and he goes, "Oh, good kid, shithead," and it turned out to be what he said. And first day I called him, he called me right when he's done with it. He goes, I go, how's it with Macho? Oh, Dad, that guy's straight up. He's great. So we'll see. Hey, we're gonna find out in March how good you are, because I'm gonna watch him in a combine. Okay.
Oh man, I'm telling you, Ballsy, man. Hey, if for any of you scouts in the CFL, NFL is watching this, I'm telling you right now, Ethan Ball is the guy to look out for. I promise y'all.
Thanks,
I'll put my name on it.
I appreciate that. Macho, you put your name beside his any day. Thanks for your time, man. Appreciate it.
No problem, Ballsy. Thanks for having me.